If you feel like something is watching you, you're not crazy. You're being summoned. There is a part of your reality, a shadow self to the world you see, that is stirring. It has always been there, just beyond the veil of your perception. A kingdom of whispers and ancient hungers. You have been taught to dismiss it, to call it psychology or neurology or a trick of the light. But the oldest parts of your soul remember. They remember a time when the veil was thinner, when humanity knew, without question, that we were not alone, that we were, in fact, surrounded. And the story we are about to enter is not a myth. It is a field report from the front lines of a pandemic. War you are living in. Whether you know it or not, by the end of this journey, you'll face something you've never dared to look at before. The boat is a splinter of wood on a vast, dark mirror. The Sea of Galilee is not itself tonight. The air is heavy, thick, holding its breath. The disciples, men whose skin is leathered by this very sun and sea, feel it, a wrongness, an oppressive quiet that is louder than any noise. They have just left the crowds behind, the endless press of human need, the healings, the parables. Jesus had said to them with a strange, quiet urgency, "Let us cross over to the other side." To the other side. Not just a geographical direction, but a spiritual one. They are leaving the familiar, the consecrated ground of Jewish Galilee, and heading toward the country of the Gerasenes, Gentile territory, a place of foreign gods and foreign ways. A place the disciples, in the deep-seated instinct of their faith, would consider unclean. They are sailing toward enemy lines, and the enemy knows they are coming. The darkness does. Not fall from the sky. It rises from the water. The wind does not build. It attacks. It comes with a shriek, a physical blow that shudders the boat's timbers. This is not a storm. This is a tantrum. The sea, which was a mirror of polished obsidian, moments before, becomes a cauldron of frothing black rage. Waves, like liquid fists, hammer the deck, pouring over the sides, trying to swamp the small vessel, to drag it down into the black. The disciples, these hardened fishermen, are terrified. They are fighting for their lives, their knuckles white. On the oars and rigging. Their skill is useless against this malevolent force. They are shouting, bailing, their prayers lost in the roar of the wind. And in the stern of the boat, on a cushion, Jesus is asleep. Think of this. In the heart of a supernatural assault, the Son of God is at peace. His sleep is not an act of negligence. It is a statement of authority. It is a declaration that the storm, for all its fury, is beneath his notice. But the disciples cannot see. Their fear is a lens that distorts reality. They see only abandonment. They scramble to him, their voices cracking with panic and accusation. "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He awakens. He does not look at the frantic men. He does not look at the water filling the boat. He looks at the storm. He stands, and in the heart of the chaos, he speaks. He does not shout. He commands. He rebukes the wind, and then he says to the raging sea, "Peace, be still." The words do not travel over the storm. They travel through it. They are words of creation, of order, and the effect is instantaneous and terrifying. The wind vanishes. The sea, which was a churning abyss, collapses into a great calm. It is not a natural peace. It is an enforced one. A silence so profound, so sudden, it is more unnerving than the hurricane it replaced. Jesus turns to his disciples. His question is quiet, but it cuts deeper than the storm's fury. Why are you so fearful? How is it that you have no faith? They have no answer. They are filled with a new kind of fear. The fear of the storm was the fear of chaos. This new fear is the fear of absolute power. They look at one another and whisper the question that will define their entire journey. Who can this be? that even the wind and the sea obey him. They think they have just witnessed the end of the battle, but it was only the opening skirmish. The storm was just the outer defense. They are about to come ashore and meet the garrison itself. The boat grates against the shore. The sound is unnaturally loud in the great, enforced calm. They have arrived. This is the other side, the country of the Gerasenes, and the land itself feels wrong. It is a place of tombs. The limestone hills are pockmarked with caves, gaping mouths that serve as sepulchres for the dead. But something is living here, something that has made a mockery of the boundary between life and death. As Jesus steps out of the boat, it happens. A man comes to meet him, but the word man is a courtesy, a placeholder for what is left of a human being. He is coming from the tombs. He is naked. His body is a roadmap of self-inflicted violence, crisscrossed with scars. His hair is a wild mane, caked with dirt and grime, and he is screaming. It is a sound that is not born of human lungs, a high, thin wail of utter agony and sheer, untamed power. This is the one they have heard stories about. The madman of the tombs, a local horror story. The Gospels tell us that no one could bind him. They had tried. Chains and shackles. He would snap them. He would shatter the iron links as if they were threads. He could not be subdued, could not be tamed. Night and day, he roamed the mountains and the tombs, crying out and cutting himself with stones. He is a being of pure chaos, a wound in the fabric of the world. He is a living territory, a piece of land occupied by a hostile force. And this force, this entity wearing a human body like a stolen coat, runs directly toward Jesus. The disciples freeze. Their fear from the storm now has a face. They reach for stones, perhaps, or stumble backward toward the perceived safety of the boat. But Jesus does not move. He watches the creature approach. He is the calm at the center of this new storm that the possessed man does not attack. Instead, he does something that defies all logic. He, who could not be bound by any man, falls on his face in the dirt before Jesus. The scream of rage transforms into a cry of recognition. It is an act of involuntary worship. His knees are forced to bow. His head is compelled to hit the ground. And a voice that is both the man's and not the man's, a layered, gravelly sound, speaks from the dust. What have I to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Stop. Do not let the familiarity of these words dull their staggering impact. This is the first mystery we must unlock. This is not a question of confusion. This is a challenge of jurisdiction. It is the ancient cry of the demonic. What business do you have here? This is our territory. You are trespassing. There is no common ground between your kingdom of light and our kingdom of darkness. It is a desperate attempt to establish a boundary that has already been breached. And notice the name it uses. Not teacher, not rabbi. It names him with perfect, terrifying clarity. Jesus, Son of the Most High God. While the disciples are still whispering among themselves, who can this be? The ancient enemy knows exactly who he is. The forces of darkness have a theology that is more accurate, more immediate, and more terrifying than that of many who claim to be followers of the light. They do not have the luxury of doubt. They see the power, and they name it for what it is. Then comes the second part of the cry, and it is here that the entire hidden structure of spiritual reality is laid bare. I adjure you by God, do not torment me. This is the great paradox. A being of pure rebellion against God now invokes God's name to beg for mercy. A demon swears an oath by the very authority it defies. Why? Because it knows it is subject to a law it cannot break and a power it cannot overcome. It is appealing to the character of the judge, even as it stands in contempt of court. And what is the torment it fears? It is not a simple physical pain. It is something far worse. It is a place, a state of being. The Greek word is basanizo, which means to be tortured, to be put to the test. But in the demonic lexicon, it refers to a specific destiny, the abyss, a bottomless pit, a prison for the most dangerous and unruly of the fallen. They know this is their ultimate end, but their terror is one of timing. They believe it is not yet their appointed time. They are terrified of being cast into that final darkness before the clock of prophecy runs out. So here is the scene. The Son of God stands on the shore of a dead land, and at his feet is a being of immense power, a creature no man could tame, and it is on its face, begging, pleading by the name of God, not to be judged before its time. The warrior has met the king, and the warrior is broken. But the king is not finished. He's about to demand something that will reveal the true scale of the battle he has come to fight. He's about to ask for a name. Jesus looks down at the writhing form in the dust. The man, the vessel, is spasming, caught between the will of his occupant and the overwhelming authority of the one who stands before him. And Jesus asks the question that changes everything. It is a question of identity, a demand for an accounting. What is your name? He does not ask the man. He asks the entity. He's addressing the squatter, the trespasser, the spirit that has taken this human life hostage. In the ancient world, to know a spirit's name was to gain a measure of authority over it. It was a crucial step in any rite of exorcism. But Jesus is not performing a rite. He is issuing a command. He is not asking for information. He is demanding a confession. He is forcing the darkness to name itself, to quantify itself, to expose the true nature of its occupation. The response comes, not as a single word, but as a military declaration. The layered, guttural voice speaks again, and what it says reveals the horrifying scale of this spiritual invasion. My name is Legion, for we are many. Legion. This is not a name. It is a number. It is a unit of military organization. A Roman legion was an army. At full strength, it was comprised of up to 6,000 soldiers, 6,000 heavily armed, disciplined, fighting men. This is not one demon. This is not a handful of spirits. This is an occupying army. An entire garrison has encamped in the soul of a single human being. This is the second, and perhaps most misunderstood, truth of this encounter. We have sanitized this story, turned it into a simple case of one man being very possessed. But the text is screaming something far more sinister. This is not about one man's private torment. This is a strategic military outpost. The country of the Gerasenes is not just Gentile territory. It is a spiritual beachhead, a forward operating base for a vast and organized demonic force. The madman is not just a madman. He's a living fortress, a walking barracks for a supernatural army. Why here? Why this place? This region, known as the Decapolis, was a confederation of 10 Roman cities. It was a bastion of Hellenistic culture, of pagan worship, of everything that stood in opposition to the God of Israel. It was a spiritual stronghold. And this man, this legion, was its gatekeeper, its living symbol. The storm on the sea was the air defense system. This man is the ground force. They are defending their territory from an invasion by the Son of God. And now, this army is broken. Their commander, their collective consciousness, is on its face before the king. The voice continues, but now it is not a challenge. It is a frantic negotiation. They are begging him, repeatedly. They know. They are being evicted. They have lost the battle for the man. Their only hope now is to negotiate the terms of their surrender. The text says they begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. This is a critical detail. They are not just afraid of the abyss. They are afraid of being banished. from their assigned territory. This reveals a fundamental principle of demonic operation. They are territorial. They are assigned to regions, to nations, to bloodlines, to specific zones of influence. To be sent out of the country is to be rendered a refugee, to lose their strategic position in the Great War. Then, they see an opportunity, a way to stay. Nearby, on the mountainside, there is a great herd of swine, about 2,000 of them. Feeding, swine, unclean animals to the Jewish mind. Creatures perfectly suited to this defiled land. And the demons in a unified voice make their desperate plea. Send us to the swine, that we may enter them. This request has baffled readers. For centuries, why pigs? Why not just scatter? Why this specific, bizarre request? It is not a random choice. It is a last-ditch effort to maintain a physical presence, a foothold in their territory. They need bodies. They are disembodied spirits, and they crave incarnation. Any form of it. If they cannot have the man, they will take the beasts. It is a desperate, pathetic downgrade from a fortress made in the image of God to a herd of unclean animals. But it is better, in their minds, than being cast into the formless void of the abyss or being exiled from their land. Jesus is silent. For a moment, he looks at the pleading, defeated army at his feet. He looks at the herd of swine on the hill. He's holding the fate of 6,000 demons in his hand. And with a single permissive word, he grants their request. Go. It is a word of release, a word of judgment. And what happens next is one of the most terrifying and revealing scenes in all of Scripture. It is a physical manifestation of what spiritual liberation looks like, and it is not peaceful. It is violent, chaotic, and utterly destructive. The word go hangs in the air, not as a whisper, but as a crack of a spiritual whip. It is a word of permission, but it is also a word of eviction. And for the man on the ground, it is a moment of cataclysmic liberation. Imagine a house being torn apart not from the outside, but from the inside out. This is what happens in his soul, a violent, shrieking exodus. The legion, torn from its fortress of flesh and bone, erupts from the man. It is an unseen hurricane of spiritual filth, a torrent of torment and rage that has been contained for years, now released in a single explosive moment. The man convulses one final time, a great, shuddering spasm, as the last of the occupying force is ripped from him. Then, silence. A stillness settles over him. The screaming stops, but the spiritual energy does not vanish. It has been given a new target. The herd of swine on the mountainside, 2,000 strong, suddenly erupts. It is not a natural stampede. It is a seizure. A collective madness descends upon them. Their squeals are not the sounds of frightened animals. They are the thin, horrifying echoes of the legion's own voice, a chorus of despair. They are no longer a herd. They are a single organism of terror, driven by a force they cannot comprehend. They turn as one and charge. Down the steep bank they pour, a wave of flesh and filth, a living avalanche. They do not stop at the water's edge. They plunge headlong into the great calm sea. The water that Jesus had commanded to be still now becomes a churning grave. The surface froths and boils as 2,000 bodies sink into the depths, taking the army of darkness with them. This is the third dark truth, hidden in the violent spectacle. The abyss is not just a place, it is a principle, and it can open up anywhere. The demons, in their cunning negotiation, thought they were escaping their judgment. They chose the pigs to avoid the abyss, but in his perfect, terrifying wisdom, Jesus granted them their request, and in doing so, led them directly into a watery abyss of his own making. He used their own choice as the instrument of their doom. The sea, the ancient symbol of chaos and death, became their prison. The very thing they feared, they were driven into. The swineherds, who have witnessed this are paralyzed with terror. They have not just seen their livelihood destroyed. They have seen the laws of reality rewritten. They have seen a power so vast and so alien that it has unmade their world in an instant. They do not run to Jesus. They do not fall at his feet in worship. They flee. They run to the city and to the countryside, babbling, screaming the story. The madman is sane. The pigs are gone. There is a man on the shore who speaks to storms and commands armies of spirits. Their story is a virus of fear. The whole town, the whole region, begins to empty out. A procession of people makes its way to the shore. They are coming to see, to verify. They are filled with a morbid, fearful curiosity. And what they see stops them cold dead. It is a scene of three parts. First, they see the sea, placid and empty. The evidence of their economic ruin is gone, swallowed by the depths. Second, they see Jesus standing on the shore, a figure of serene and unnerving power. But it is the third part of the scene that shatters their minds. They see the man, the one they had known only as the shrieking, naked creature of the tombs, the monster of their children's nightmares, and he is sitting at the feet of Jesus. He is clothed, he is calm, he's in his right mind. The transformation is absolute. It is undeniable. The most broken, most violent, most hopeless man in the entire region is now the picture of perfect peace. The living symbol of their land's darkness has been transformed into a living symbol of a light they cannot comprehend. They hear the full story from the men who had been there, from the disciples of the storm, of the name region, of the violent deliverance. And as they put it all together, the silent storm, the healed madman, the drowned herd, they are not filled with joy. They are not overcome with gratitude. The Bible says one thing: they were afraid. It is a fear different from the disciples' awe. It is a deep, systemic fear. The fear of a people whose entire reality has been destabilized. They had a system. For the demoniac, it was a terrible system, but it was predictable. They knew which hills to avoid. They knew the sound of his screams. He was a known quantity, a manageable monster. Their world, for all its horror, had a kind of order. Jesus has brought a new order, and it is terrifying. This power is not manageable. It does not respect their boundaries. It does not respect their economy. This man, who can command legions of demons and destroy a herd of swine with a single word, what else can he do? His very presence is a judgment on their way of life, on their pagan gods, on their compromised peace. And so, the entire city, standing before the evidence of the greatest miracle they have ever seen, comes to a single, unified decision. They begin to beg Jesus to plead with him to do one thing: to leave. Please. They are saying, go away. Take your power, take your miracles, take your terrible, beautiful light, and leave us alone. We prefer the devil we know. A whole region, given the choice between the Son of God and the familiar darkness, chooses the darkness. They ask God to depart from their country, and the man who has just been set free must now watch as the one who freed him is rejected by the very people he is now ready to rejoin. Jesus turns to leave. He does not argue. He does not try to convince them. He honors their choice. He has come as a liberator, not a conqueror, and if they choose their chains, he will not force them to be free. As he moves back toward the boat, a figure follows him. It is the man who was legion. His face, now clear of madness, is filled with a new and desperate emotion, a terrified love. He has been pulled from a living hell, and the one who pulled him out is now leaving. The thought of being left behind, of returning to a world that rejected his Savior, is unbearable. The text says he begged him that he might be with him. It is the most natural request in the world. He wants to become a disciple. He wants to follow Jesus. to stay in the light, to never be separated from the one who gave him back his soul. Anyone would expect Jesus to say yes, to welcome this spectacular trophy of grace into his inner circle. What better testimony could there be than this man, walking beside him from town to town? But Jesus does not say yes. He refuses him. Go home to your friends and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you. This refusal is not a rejection. It is a commission. It is the fourth and most personal dark truth of this entire encounter, a truth that speaks directly to you now. Jesus has a specific strategic purpose for this man, and it is not what anyone would expect. He is being sent back into the very world that just cast Jesus out, back to the people who preferred their darkness. Jesus is leaving the country of the Gerasenes, but he is not leaving it empty. He is leaving behind a missionary. He's planting a seed of light in the heart of the darkness. This man is to become a living testimony, a walking miracle. He will not speak of complex theology or messianic prophecy. His message is simple, personal, and irrefutable. Look at me. I was a monster, and now I am a man. I was a tomb dweller, and now I am your neighbor. The Lord has done this. He has had compassion. This is the divine strategy. Jesus clears the territory of its demonic garrison. He liberates a single soul, and then he sends that soul back in as his apostle to the region. The man who was the symbol of the enemy's occupation will now become the symbol of the kingdom's invasion. He is the first fruits of a harvest in a land no one thought could be plowed. Think of the courage this requires. This man must return to the people who knew him at his worst. He must face the fear in their eyes, the whispers, the memories of the shrieking thing he once was. He must live among those who explicitly rejected the one who saved him. His old life is gone, but his new life is a lonely one, an outpost of heaven in a land that has declared its allegiance elsewhere. He has been given a task that is, in its own way, as difficult as facing down a legion of demons. He must now face down a legion of fearful, skeptical, and hostile human hearts. And the man obeys. The text says, "And he departed and began to proclaim in the Decapolis all that Jesus had done for him. And all marveled." He goes to the Decapolis, the 10 cities, the heart of the pagan stronghold. He becomes the first apostle to the Gentiles. His pulpit is his own transformed life, and the reaction is no longer fear. It is marvel, awe, wonder. The seed has been planted. The light has been left behind. The story seems to end here, but it doesn't. There is an echo, a second chapter that most people miss, and it is here that the true purpose of the entire violent, terrifying encounter is revealed. Mark's gospel tells us that sometime later, Jesus returns to this same region. He's been ministering elsewhere, and now he crosses the sea again, back to the Decapolis. This time, there is no storm. The demonic air force does not scramble to meet him. The territory, it seems, has been pacified. And when he comes ashore, he is not met by a screaming madman. He is met by a crowd. A massive crowd thought the man who was legion has done his work. The story has spread. The marvel has turned into a desperate hope. They bring to Jesus a man who is deaf and has a speech impediment, and they beg him to heal him. He does. And then the crowd grows. For 3 days, a multitude of 4,000 people stays with him in this remote, desolate place. They have no food. They are so captivated by his presence, so hungry for the hope he offers, that they forget their own physical needs. Jesus looks at this massive crowd of Gentiles, gathered in the very place that once begged him to leave, and his heart is filled with compassion. He will not send them away hungry. And here, in this unclean land, he performs a miracle that mirrors the feeding of the 5,000 in Jewish territory. He takes 7 loaves of bread and a few small fish, gives thanks, and feeds the entire multitude. This is the culmination of the story. This is why the battle had to be fought. The violent encounter with Legion was not just about saving one man. It was about breaking the spiritual dominion over a territory. It was a D-Day invasion. Jesus had to defeat the garrison so that the bread of life could be served to the people. He had to cast out the spirits of the abyss so that he could fill the spiritual abyss in the hearts of the Gentiles. The war for the justness was a war against the powers of starvation, the spiritual starvation enforced by the enemy. Legion's purpose was to keep the people isolated, terrified, and cut off from the one who could truly feed them. By defeating Legion, Jesus opened the supply lines of heaven to an entire region. You feel that you are being watched because you are. You live in a territory, a culture, a time that is occupied. There are forces assigned to your life whose sole purpose is to keep you isolated, starving, and afraid. Their goal is to convince you to reject the very one who has crossed the sea, to set you free. And when he comes, the encounter may not be gentle. Liberation is often a violent process. It requires casting out the old rulers. It requires a willingness to see the familiar systems, even the familiar demons, drowned in the sea. The question is, when he stands before you, will you see your deliverance? Or will you, like the people of that country, be so afraid of the power it takes to save you that you beg him to leave you alone in the tombs? Let us go deeper now into the anatomy of the encounter itself. For what happened on that shore was not just a miracle. It was a cosmic legal proceeding. It was a courtroom drama played out on the stage of the material world, and every word, every action, was a move in a divine lawsuit against the powers of darkness. We must first dismantle a modern misunderstanding. We have been conditioned to view the demonic as a psychological phenomenon, a metaphor for mental illness. And while the suffering of the jaw-saying demoniac was absolute, manifesting as a profound madness to reduce his condition to a mere sickness of the mind is to miss the terrifying reality of what Jesus was confronting. The text does not say Jesus cured a man. It says he cast out demons. The distinction is critical. Curing implies fixing something that is broken from within. Casting out implies evicting a foreign entity that has taken up residence. The man was not just sick, he was occupied. His will was not his own. His voice was not his own. His body was a puppet, its strings pulled by the unseen army encamped within him. This is the fifth dark truth, a truth our modern sensibilities fight against. With all their might, possession is not a metaphor. It is a hostile takeover of a sovereign territory. The human soul, created in the image of God, is a territory of immense value in the spiritual war. It is a prize. And the enemy's goal is not merely to tempt it or to trick it, but to conquer it, to colonize it, to raise its own flag over the citadel of a human will. Look again at the legal language of the scene. The first cry from the demon is, "What have I to do with you?" This is a legal formula. In Greek, "tiemoi kai soai." It is a phrase used to deny a relationship, to contest a claim. It essentially means, "You have no jurisdiction over me." It is the plea of a squatter to a landowner who has come to reclaim his property. The demon is challenging Jesus' legal right to be their dot, and then the demon tries to turn the tables, to use the law against the lawgiver. "I adjure you by God, do not torment me." The word adjure is horkizo. It is where we get our word. Exercise. It means to put someone under oath. The demon is trying to bind Jesus with an oath in the name of God the Father. It's a desperate, legalistic maneuver. It is saying, by the authority of the God you serve, I demand that you adhere to the established rules of engagement. The time of our final judgment, the time of torment in the abyss, has not yet come. You cannot legally punish us yet. This is a glimpse into the rule-bound nature of the spiritual world. It is not pure chaos. There are laws. There are timelines. There are appointed seasons. The demons know this, and they are attempting to use God's own cosmic laws to shield themselves from Jesus' immediate power. They are, in essence, filing a demonic injunction. Jesus ignores the plea entirely. He does not engage the legal argument. He bypasses it with a display of superior authority. He simply asks, "What is your name?" He is not playing their legal game. He's rewriting the rules. His presence is the new law. His presence is the dawning of a new age. The kingdom of God has arrived on this shore, and with it, a new jurisdiction that supersedes all previous spiritual arrangements. The confession, "My name is Legion, for we are many," is a surrender. It is the end of their legal posturing. They have been compelled to identify themselves, to admit the scale of their illegal occupation. And from that moment on, their tone changes. The challenges stop. The begging begins. They become supplicants, pleading for terms. This reveals a profound spiritual principle. The enemy's power is rooted in secrecy and anonymity. It thrives in the darkness, in the unnamed corners of our lives. When you, through the authority of Christ, can drag a thing into the light and name it for what it is, call out the spirit of fear, the spirit of addiction, the spirit of pride, you are reenacting this moment. You are forcing it to confess its nature, and in doing so, you are asserting your God-given jurisdiction over it. The power is not in the naming itself, but in the authority of the one who backs you up when you do. Finally, consider the transaction with the swine. It was not just a convenient disposal. It was a legal transfer. The demons begged to be sent into the pigs. Jesus permitted it. On one level, he was granting the request of a defeated enemy. But on a deeper legal level, something else was happening. He was attaching the demonic presence to property. He was binding their spiritual essence to a physical, economic asset belonging to the people of that region. When the pigs plunged into the sea, it was not just a spectacle of destruction. It was the execution of a divine judgment that had a physical cost. The people of the Gerasenes lost their herd. They suffered a massive economic blow. Why? Because the land itself was complicit. Their culture, their idolatry, their tolerance of this dark spiritual stronghold had made them co-conspirators in the man's torment. The cost of liberating the one man was the destruction of the economic system that had passively profited from, or at least coexisted with the darkness. The liberation of a soul is never without cost. It costs the enemy its stronghold. But sometimes, it also costs the surrounding culture its idols, its corrupt economies, its comfortable arrangements with the darkness. And this is why the people were so afraid. Jesus didn't just heal a man. He presented them with a bill. The cost of light is the destruction of that which thrives in the dark. And they were not willing to pay the price. They looked at the healed man and then at the empty sea, and they chose their pigs over their prophet. They chose their economy over their salvation. A choice that our world makes in subtler ways every single day. We must now turn our gaze from the shoreline and look inward. For the country of the Gerasenes is not just a location on a map. It is a mirror. The story of the demoniac is not just a historical report. It is a diagnostic tool for the human soul. The landscape of the tombs, the rage of the storm, the voice of the legion, these are all elements that exist within the hidden country of the self. This is the final and most intimate, dark truth of this encounter. You have a Gerasene in you. There is a part of your own inner world that is a foreign country, a territory of the soul that lives by a different set of laws. A place of tombs where you have buried old traumas, old sins, old wounds. You think they are dead and gone, but they are not. They are occupied. And from these tombs, a voice sometimes cries out, a voice of rage, of despair, of a pain so deep you cannot tame it. You have tried to bite it. You have used the chains of discipline, the shackles of religion, the resolutions of a new year. You have tried to tame this wild part of yourself, but it snaps the chains. In the dead of night, it rises up and cuts you with the sharp stones of shame and self-recrimination. It is the part of you that feels untamable, unreachable, hopelessly and permanently broken. It is your own private madman, screaming in the today mountains of your heart, and the world around you has built a system to accommodate it. Your friends and family have learned which topics to avoid. They know the sound of your inner storm brewing. They have learned how to manage your manageable madness. A fragile peace has been negotiated, but it is the peace of a graveyard. Then, Jesus says, "Let us cross over to the other side." He is not content to minister only to the clean, well-lit shores of your conscious mind. He wants to sail into the storm of your subconscious. He wants to land on the shores of your deepest brokenness. He wants to walk among the tombs you have forbidden even yourself to enter. And when he arrives, the legion within you screams out, "What have I to do with you, Son, the Most High God? Do not torment me." The spirits of fear, of pride, of lust, of bitterness that have taken up residence in your wounds rise up to defend their territory. They have been living there for so long, they believe they own the place. Your pain has become their home. Your trauma has become their fortress, and they will try to use your own religion against you. "I adjure you by God," they cry. "Don't make me look at this. It's too painful." God is a God of love and light. He wouldn't want me to go into this darkness. Let's just focus on the positive. They will use the language of grace to avoid the surgery of sanctification. But the true Jesus, the Jesus of the Gospels, is not. Gentle therapist who is afraid of your darkness. He is a liberator, and he will not be deterred. He will stand on that shore and ask the question that terrifies the darkness. "What is your name?" He will force you to identify the legion of excuses, the army of justifications, the garrison of old hurts that have occupied your heart. And the process of this deliverance is not gentle. It feels like death. To have that legion cast out is to feel as if you are being torn apart. It is violent. It is chaotic. It requires a death. The herd of swine, all your carefully constructed coping mechanisms, your unclean but comfortable compromises, your economic and social arrangements that depend on your brokenness remaining broken, may have to be driven into the sea. Liberation will cost you something. You may have to lose friends who only knew how to relate to the sick version of you. You may have to change careers if your job was feeding the beast. You may have to let go of an entire way of life that was built around the tombs. The price of freedom is the destruction of the ecosystem that thrived on your captivity. And when you are finally free, when you are sitting at his feet, clothed in the righteousness he gives you, in your right mind for the first time in years, you will face the same choice as the healed man. Your first instinct will be to cling to Jesus, to stay in the boat, to follow him to the next spiritual high. "I never want to leave this place of peace," you will say, and he may look at you with love in his eyes and say, "No, go home. Go back to your family. Go back to your workplace. Go back to the very people who knew you when you were the shrieking thing in the tombs. Go back to the world that doesn't understand this power, that is afraid of this light. And be my witness. Be my living epistle. Your mission field is the very place you were liberated from. This is the great pattern. The crossing, the confrontation, the casting out, and the commissioning. It is the story of every soul that truly encounters the living Christ. It is a terrifying journey, and it is the only journey that leads to life. You are being summoned. The boat is at the shore. He is asking to cross over to the other side, to the part of you that you have deemed unreachable. He knows what lives there. He is not afraid of your legion. He is not intimidated by your storm. He has come to silence the screaming in your soul. He has come to bring you out of the tombs and into your right mind. And he has come to give you a story to tell, a story that begins with your own impossible healing, a story that has the power to make a world that has rejected him marvel at what the Lord has done. The only question left is, will you let him into the boat?